الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء محمد المصطفى وآله المجتبى. عن ثوبان رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا تقوم الساعة حتى تلحق قبائل من أمتي بالمشركين وحتى تعبد قبائل من أمتي الأوثان وإنه سيكون في أمتي كذابون ثلاثون. As we have been reading the hadith, and in the next coming days, inshallah, we'll be finishing the Kitab al-Fitan, and then the chapter Malahim, which will talk more about the signs of the day, close to the day of Qiyamah. Right now we are speaking about the events and what type of fitnas will come. Fitnas regarding to the deen, fitnas regarding in dunya, fitnas that will affect a person mentally, physically, socially. These type of fitnas are being mentioned. And then the fitnas will mention more regarding the coming of Dajjal, Ya'juj, Ma'juj, Mahdi, Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, etc. So today the hadith is from Thawban radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentions, إِذَا وُضِعَ السَّيْفِ فِي أُمَّتِي لَمْ يَرْفَعْ عَنْهَا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. That when the sword is lifted in my ummah, and when the sword gets used in my ummah, it will not be lifted until the day of Qiyamah. And we spoke about this in the hadith previously, that the first person to use the sword was the fight and the murder between Habil and Qabil. Since then, and also then the scholars mention that during the Khilafah of Hazrat Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when there was fighting amongst the Muslims, and when there was fighting amongst the Muslims, when they used swords to kill, since then Muslims have always used swords and weapons to kill each other. وَلَا تَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ, and Qiyamah will not come until, the last hour will not arrive until the nations of my ummah, the people of my ummah, will resort and will attach themselves to the mushrikeen. That there was a time where there was a difference between the Muslims and the non-Muslims. And such a time will come where Muslims in their affairs, they will group up and they will join with the mushrikeen, with the non-Muslims. They will friend the mushrikeen, those who openly hate the religion. And now we are in this situation. What we have been advised and what we have been told is the lesser of the two evils. So in reality, voting for a non-Muslim is not permissible. But we are in this situation where we have no other option. So we will see in which there is the lesser of the two evil, in which there is a benefit of us, we'll have to resort to. So such times will come and we are seeing it in front of us. وَحَتَّى تَعْبُدَ قَبَائِلٌ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي الْأَوْثَانِ. And people from my nation will start worshipping idols. So they will resort back to worshipping idols. And idols does not just necessarily mean the real idols where you get idols made out of clay, which there was in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what the mushrikeen do, or nowadays what the Hindus do. Or this another interpretation is that Muslims will adopt the culture in which they worship idols. And we see that amongst the Muslims, especially at the time of in weddings, the extreme they go to, that they bring so much culture into them, that to an extent that they use the culture of the Hindus, and they even put idols and things which go totally against the teachings of Islam, so they can fit into the culture and into the traditions. And another meaning of idols is not the real idols, but we will start worshipping money. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, Ta'isa abdul dinar wa abdul dirham. That destruction and curse be upon those who worship dinar and those who worship dirhams, who worship currency, who worship money. That is all they have in life, is they have money, nothing else. And they live just for money. And when it comes to defending the deen, when it comes to going out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, spending some time in the masjid, what is stopping them? What is a distraction? It is because that money is not a darura for them, is not a need for them, but money is the only thing they need. And the primary purpose of living would be money and would be wealth. وَإِنَّهُ سَيَكُونَ فِي أُمَّتِي كَذَّابُونَ ثَلَاثُونَ. Then the Prophet ﷺ mentions, so the first sign is that the people will friend the mushrikeen, and they will start worshipping idols. And then there will be in my ummah 30 great liars. كُلُّهُمْ يَزْعَمُ, and each of them will believe, or each of them will claim the other Nabi and the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And وَأَنَا خَاتَمُ النَّبِيِّينَ, I am the final prophet, I am the seal of prophethood. لَا نَبِيَّ بَعْدِي, there is no Nabi after me. وَلَا تَزَالُ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي عَلَى الْحَقِّ ظَاهِرِينَ, there will always be in my ummah a group who will be on haqq. لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ مَنْ خَالَفَهُمْ, those who oppose them will not harm them. So even though they have a lot of criticism, they have a lot of hate, they have an opposition party who are always against them, but they will stay steadfast and firm on haqq, حتى يأتي أمر الله, until the hukam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. So this was the first hadith, and so much could be said on this hadith. And regarding 30 great liars, and out of them we have the Ghulam Mirza, Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, who also claimed prophethood, and many also after them, but they will never succeed. Whoever even believes in them or even doubts them, then they will go out of the fold of Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the final prophet. Very important, we need to educate ourselves, especially with these fitnas, the fitnas of those, and especially these are people who claim to be Muslims. One is a non-Muslim claiming something. One is Muslims who read namaz like us, who perform hajj like us, who fast like us in the month of Ramadan, but also they believe that there is a Nabi after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's very important to educate ourselves, educate the youngsters, and educate those around us so we do not fall in this trap. When Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu mentions that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the mill of Islam will go around for 35 years, or 36 years, or 37 years. So what does it mean by the mill of Islam will go for 35 years? That from the start of Nabuwah, when our Prophet ﷺ made hijrah, after 35 years, Hazrat Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was martyred, he was killed. And then after 36 years, there was the battle of Jamal. And after 35 years, there was a battle of Siffin. فَإِن يُهْلِكُوا فَسَبِيلُ مَنْ حَلَكَ. Then if they perish, they will perish because the people before them also perished for this very same reason. And what was that reason? That they left the haqq, and they fell in differences amongst them in deen. And because of them going away and diverting away from the haqq, now they will perish and they will become destroyed. وَإِن يَقُمْ لَهُمْ دِينُهُمْ يَقُمْ لَهُمْ سَبْعِينَ عَامًا. But if they have a religious outlook, then Islam will be preserved for 70 years. So Hazrat Hazrat Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said that what does it mean by 70 years? Is it 70 years of which will follow, or 70 years inclusive of which has passed? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said 70 years inclusive of that which has passed. So meaning that staying steadfast, and if a person worries about his religious outlook, about preserving the deen, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep him steadfast on the deen. And if he is not going to leave the haqq, and there are a few interpretations regarding what does it mean by 70 years. Some say that if there is an Islamic state, then he should obey the king, he should obey the ruler, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep him steadfast for 70 years. But if you take the general meaning, that if we worry about the preservation of our deen, if we worry about an Islamic environment in our household, in our locality, in our society, if we make an effort on ourselves, on our families, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will preserve deen. And deen is preserved, number one, like Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi's ustad mentioned, that those people who disrespect the ulama, disrespect those people who are doing services for the deen, they are sincere for doing services for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah in their family, in the descendants will create, and there will be many people who will become murtad. So deen will perish from their family. But those who are not scholars, but they respect the scholars, so they have not been through that Islamic seminary, but because they have respect for the religion, respect for those who serve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their family will create awliyaullah, will create the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And deen will be preserved in generations. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to talk to them.